He gave her every reason to leave. Precise, logical, completely selfless reasons, the kind that are more convincing because they cost the person saying them something. She sat across from him and listened to the most honest argument she had ever heard. And then she told him she wasn't going anywhere. He looked at her for a long moment, and then he told her the plan. And everything that happened next was her choice. Completely, freely, hers. I had not accounted for this. I had a plan. I am always honest about having a plan, but the plan had a gap in it. The gap was Celeste herself. I had calculated her intelligence correctly, her tenacity correctly, her professional skill correctly. I had not calculated what it would feel like to want her to leave, to want her safe more than I wanted the outcome. I had not felt that about anyone in a long time. I had not been entirely certain I could. He laid it out like an architectural plan. The risks were precise. Vale would escalate now that he knew Celeste was investigating. The confidentiality clause was real. Vale would use it. Celeste had no institutional backing, no evidence that was legally obtained, and no ally within the facility who could protect her. The rational choice was to leave, report what she knew through back channels, and let the regulatory machinery work. "It'll take years through official channels," she said. "Yes. And you'll still be here." "Yes. And Vale will still be here. And Nadia will still be living with what she knows." "Yes," Dorian's voice was perfectly level, "but you'll be safe." She looked at him across the table. She thought about the letter, about the cliff, about Isobel stepping backward in the dark. She thought about 12 years of professional distance and the very specific feeling of the photograph in her coat pocket, the way she had rested her hand on it without knowing. "What if I don't want the rational choice?" she said. He had a plan. Of course he had a plan. She had asked, knowing he would, and he had told her with a specificity that confirmed he had been refining it for months, possibly since he'd known she was coming. Nadia, everything rested on Nadia. Nadia had told the truth to Petra once. She would tell it again, to the right people, if she felt safe enough. Dorian knew things about Nadia that made him believe she was, fundamentally, a woman of conscience who had made one catastrophic choice and had been carrying it ever since. He had not contacted her since her single visit. He had been waiting. Waiting for what? Celeste asked. For someone who could go to her without it being traceable to me. Someone outside the facility. Someone Vale doesn't yet know is completely on my side. The word yet hung between them. "He knows," Celeste said. "After this morning, he knows." "Yes, which means we have very little time." He looked at her steadily. "Will you do it?" Nadia was in Edinburgh. It took Celeste 6 hours and 3 intermediaries. She drove through the night, arrived at 9 in the morning at a flat in a quiet street, and knocked on a door that took 4 minutes to open. Nadia was 31. She had the same bone structure as the woman in the wedding photograph, the same jaw, the same quality of stillness, but her eyes were different. Her eyes had been carrying something for 3 years. Celeste told her who she was, told her why she had come, did not ask any questions, simply stood on the doorstep and said, "I think you have been waiting to tell the truth for a very long time, and I think you should know that someone is finally in a position to hear it." Nadia opened the door wider and said, "How is he?" She was 40 minutes from Blackwell, driving back, when her phone rang. The Blackwell main number. A staff member she didn't know, voice deliberately neutral, told her that Dorian Ashby had been placed in restricted access that morning on the instruction of Dr. Vale. Her visiting privileges had been suspended pending a review of her clinical methodology. Restricted access, the administrative equivalent of a door being locked. She drove faster. She called the external clinical regulatory number she had memorized 3 days ago and had not yet used. She made a report. She gave them Vale's name. She gave them the photograph. She gave them Petra Sally's contact details and Nadia's address. And then she drove to Blackwell and walked through the front entrance and asked, with professional calm, to speak to Dr. Vale immediately. She walked into his office and did not sit down. She stood at the window that looked over the sea, the same window as the session room, the same gray water, and said everything she had to say. The report, the photograph, Nadia, the regulatory investigation that was now in motion. She said it without stopping and without raising her voice. Vale sat behind his desk and listened and said nothing for a long time. Then he said something she had not prepared for. "Do you know why he chose you?" Vale asked. "Not because of the paper. The paper was a reason he told you. The real reason is that you remind him of Isobel." She felt something cold move through her. "In the way you hold yourself when you're uncertain," Vale said. "The way you go still when something surprises you. The way you read a room before you enter it. He noticed it from your author photograph. He told me, in the early months, when he still spoke to me, that you had her eyes." Celeste looked at the photograph in her coat pocket. The photograph of Isobel, the woman she had been thinking of as a victim, a case, a person she had never met. She looked at the photograph and understood, with the slow, terrible clarity of a structure bearing more weight than it was designed for, exactly why the photograph had felt familiar from the first moment she saw it. She had seen her own face in it.